everyone, my name is Magda Moolenaar and I'm here with Jeanette Rouse, and today we're doing a segment called Crucian Cultural Cuisine. And we're going to be telling you all about our local Kallaloo and how its traditional roots is very important to keep up to it and pick bush. So tell us about the bushes that you have today in your Kallaloo.
Well, the bush I have today in my Kallaloo is bata bata. The Kallaloo bush itself, Whitey Mary, Papa Lola, and Pulsey.
And Pulsey.
You can also use Tanya leaf, but I don't have any Tanya leaf today. Now, all the bushes that I am using today was grown here on St. Croix, and they were provided by a family who I think is trying to farm them to a degree. That's how I understood it. What I did though is that I grind all of them together. I actually wish I had kept a leaf, but I forgot.
It's such a beautiful color though,
Yes.
the mixture of all of them.
And it has a scent when you put them together, and it's like very sticky. It looks that, people would want to say slimy, but it's not.
It's just the natural juices from
Yes.
it being grounded down.
Yes, and it has, you can smell it.
It's a very vibrant smell.
Yes. Additionally, also, what I include in my Kallaloo when I'm cooking it, and this is something that I learned from my mother, is we include okras, and
That's where you can see the seeds.
and the seeds are from the okra, and I also include eggplant. Some people call it boulanger, some people call it choba, but this is eggplant, and I grind all of them together.
So all of the vegetables so far is all local ingredients that you can find here.
Yes.
Yes, nice.
Then one of the big ingredients in regular Kallaloo, in your local regular Kallaloo, is a variety of salted meat that are in the brine. You have pig feet, salted pig feet. You have salt beef. Salt beef is actually brisket that has been put in a brine. And you have pigtail, you have ham, and the purpose of the ham is to get the smokiness from your smoked ham. Then you also have riblet, and riblet is actually what we use barbecue ribs. So you know that your ribs not only barbecue, but you can also brine them. And there's only one meat that I don't have here today, and it's called pig snout. Okay, so I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 or 6 different meat.
So can you
here.
cook the Kallaloo without one of the meats and it still have the same impact of flavor?
Well, I think all of them come with their own little thing.
With their own little taste?
Yeah, their own little taste, because if you take out the ham, you don't have the smokiness from the ham, right? And the salt beef, add a little extra because it's different. It's not pork, it's beef. Okay? And your pig feet, throw in their own little thing too. So, truthfully speaking, but the one thing you're going to do without having is your pigtail, which in quite a bit of people use the pigtail, and some people may just choose to use pigtail alone. Okay. What I've learned also is that what I thought was kind of funny is that if you use pork and then you put smoked turkey, smoked turkey neck, but I don't.
Yeah, because I see you said you have the ham in there for the smoky flavor.
Yes.
And then, so you also are adding in some fish.
Yes.
And then
Now,
this is local fish as well?
yes. This is like what I did. Sometimes my choice is I would like to fry the fish, but I'll be honest with you today and tell you, by the time I got through all of this prepping, I was kind of tired. So I did what my mother used to do. She used to steam the fish. And in the broth that the fish had, she would keep the broth. She'd take it out, put it to cool, and then she would pick the fish. So this
you
is
steam it, then debone it.
Yeah, but we keep the broth because you need the flavor of the fish also in the Kallaloo. So therefore, I steamed and I picked to make sure there aren't any bones in your Kallaloo.
So do you add any other seafood, or you just generally try to stick to using the fish alone?
For me, that's my choice. Some folks add conch or they add land crab, but that's after the land crab has been purged that you use it. My preference in cooking regular callaloo is not to add the conch nor the land crab. You know, that's my personal preference. To tell you the truth though, I kind of learned about the conch from my mother because she said the conch does change the taste of the callaloo. If you're good on your taste buds, you will be able to identify the difference in it. Now, what I use conch and crab and lobster and shrimp is when I do decide to cook seafood callaloo alone, which does not include none of this.
That's a heap of pork.
Yes, none of that. Everything else but the pork.
Okay, so what's the first step in making the callaloo after you have done your prep? Because you have to first gather your bushes and then your meats and separate and clean them and soak them. Because you were telling me that you just soak your ham for how many hours overnight?
Well, depends on the time that you pick it up. I picked these up on Friday afternoon. So I came home, I rinsed them off, and I put them in some water to soak, plain water. And then before I would go to sleep, I would change the water. And then in the morning, I change the water again. So then on Saturday, I put them back again in some water for a while.
Oh, wow. So this is no cookie meal.
No, because you don't want the callaloo to be salt. Remember, these meat are in brine. They live in salt.
So the prepping is the most important part of this dish then?
And it's the most work. If you want to do it correctly, you have to take your time prepping. Callaloo is not a now for now dish. It's a dish that you need to prepare yourself for if you want the best result.
Alrighty. So you said your mother taught you this recipe, and then do you plan on passing this recipe down to your family?
I've already done that. Because I would not say I am a cook. I would definitely say I love to cook. And in cooking, I do my best. I make sure that the food is palatable and tastes good. Now, when I do that, I include my children and I include my grandchildren. And I'm trying enough for my great-grandson who wants to cook with me. He's only 7, but I'm going to include him somewhere along the line.
That's beautiful. Yes, you have to pass along the tradition.
That's right.
So the young ones have to come in the kitchen and learn. It's a very important way to do it.
And I'm big on maintaining Crucian culture. I like my children to know how to prepare whatever, be it dumb bread, be it bread that you bake home locally, be it, whatever foods that we have here, we need to pass on to our children and their children.
Very true, very true. You have to pass on the history and the knowledge. Now, one last question I have to ask you about making a callaloo. Do you add fungi balls into yours or after? You don't have it to the side?
No. It's you put the fungi ball in the bowl and then you cover it with the callaloo.
So can you have callaloo without fungi?
Yeah, some people, because I've sold callaloo before in food fairs, at the agriculture and at Christmas, some people like to get more callaloo, so they'll tell you, don't give me no fungi. But for me, I like fungi as a fungi girl. So I like my fungi in there.
Quick question about your fungi, because I've had fungi from different places, and we spoke earlier that you have traveled to different places. Have you had fungi with like coconut milk and vegetables in it, or you just make it just for the water and the sauce and butter?
No, I just had fungi and fried fungi, and some people add sugar to the fungi.
Oh no!
But I have not. I don't indulge in that because I like fungi the way I know it to be. Now the difference though for callaloo, regular callaloo, you don't put any okra in a cornmeal.
And that's what I was just about to ask. Are you adding those vegetables into it?
No. You already have it in the callaloo.
And then callaloo itself, so it's just plain
plain fungi. Okay. I noticed some people add okra to it by saying, I can't eat fungi unless you're having okra. But for callaloo, the okra is already there. It's in the callaloo.
It's already there. So you don't want to overpower it.
No. If I eat in fish and fungi, then they get in okra.
Okay.
Yes.
Now that we've done seen everything that goes inside of the callaloo, now it's time to actually see how it looks when it is prepared. So we have 2 pots over here, one that the fungi has already been boiled out in, and then the next pot that the callaloo has been sitting in. Now, like Miss Jeanette already said, it takes numerous hours. It is a long process, especially if you're doing it the traditional way, not skimping cannas, training, any kind of bush, but actually picking the actual bushes that belong in callaloo, soaking the meats that belong in callaloo, and picking apart the fish from the bones. Because it's important and it is time consuming.
Yes,
so we're going to show you guys next basically what's inside of the pot and tell you basically how you should move forward with cooking it. Okay, so let's dive into how callaloo is actually cooked, because like we mentioned, it takes a lot of hours to prepare it, and it also takes a lot of hours to cook the meal. So let's dive into Miss Jeanette's pot. You mind opening a pot for us?
Not at all.
Ooh, look at that steam coming off of there.
Yes.
All right, so Miss Jeanette, let's talk about how do you first begin cooking the callaloo?
Okay, I've started with the pork, the salt meat. And the size of this pot is a 24 ounce, so I use 4 gallons of water. And I put them on slow at first, because I put them on like 3:30 this morning to cook, to get soft. But I put it low, and then I came out about 5:30 to check if they were boiled and if they were soft, and then I turn it up to about to 4.
So you slow boil first to let it just simmer, and then
Yes.
you're going and cook it heavier.
Yes.
And at that point, do you add in anything else?
No, just the pork.
Okay, so then after
Meat.
what point do you decide to start adding in other stuff?
Once the salt meat is soft, then I begin to decide what I'm going to add. The first thing I add in is the fish, and then I try to mix the eggplant and the okra with some of the callaloo bush. And then I put them all in. And I have to stir them up because, you know, they kind of chunk up, you know, to get them to fall into place inside of the pot. And once I get that, then I raise the burner to a high boil. And then I begin to skim because it makes some froth on the top of it. And that's from the bush.
So you gotta make sure you take the broth off.
All of the froth that comes up to the top, we keep skim until nothing comes up.
Okay, so it's a cleaning process even when they're cooking.
I tell you.
So the cleaning ain't finished. So simple. Yes, this is a lot of work in there. So, and all after you're done adding all the ingredients, how long do you let it to cook on the stove?
Well, I think we let it cook. We've been here about an hour or hour and a half. I'd say almost 2 hours. For the simple reason, the bush, even though it's growing, have to cook. And you can taste it if it's not cooked. And you remember you have about 5 different kind of bush. So all of them are not going to cook at the same time.
So the same way like how collard greens and stuff, you want to cook them for a minimum of like 2-3 hours. You cook them for this long as well?
No.
Not as long?
No.
So roughly how long then?
I'd say we were at the pot for about 2 hours.
Oh, so about 2 hours, then the leaves should be nice and tender and soft, where it's now in a soup kind of texture.
Yes.
So do you add any seasonings into this?
Your seasoning is your salt meat.
So the salt meat does it all?
Yes. And your fish have flavor.
Do you add in pepper?
Yes. You know, all Crucian dishes have to have a kick. And our kick is some hot pepper.
So you
but you put it in, you put it in where it's palatable. That's where it destroys your taste buds.
You use the Scotch bonnet peppers?
I want to think that's what I got, yes.
The
Some red ones?
Yeah.
No. I got some nice red ones. Yeah, that's what I use. I put in a quart of it and I couldn't taste anything. So I tell my granddad, I think I got put in the whole thing. And I noticed it wasn't rash or anything. So you could enjoy it. I like pepper in all of my food, truthfully, but not to the point where it destroys my taste.
So have you had callaloo prepared any other way besides the way you've prepared it today?
Well, one of the things I have to say is that everyone have their way about doing things, even us Crucians. Some of us decide that we don't want certain things in the callaloo, so therefore we don't put it in. But there's always a right way and a wrong way to do things. And the way I'm doing it is the way I learned it from observing what my mother did and having her prep for me so that I could get the right idea And I have followed through on that for every time I prepare callaloo, be it regular callaloo or seafood callaloo.
So can you tell us a little bit about the history of Kallaloo?
Boy, it's hundreds of years old. It's been here from the time our African slave grandparents, great grandparents, and uncle came from Africa, and they brought some of their culture, and callaloo is one of them. So I would say it's the Crucian national dish.
It's the Crucian national dish.
That's what I would call it.
It definitely is up there in the top ones.
Yes. We have some others, but callaloo is it. If you eat Crucian callaloo and you're an outsider, you're definitely coming back to the Virgin Islands.
Quick question. You had Kallaloo in St. Thomas before?
It's not the same.
Oh, God.
I've had it, but it's not the same. You know, and I'm not saying that you may have some people on St. Thomas. Remember, there's a lot of Crucians living in St. Thomas also. And you may have some people that would prepare it the way that they know it here in St. Croix. And then you may have a different influx on St. Thomas because you do have people from Tortola that lives in St. Thomas. And a lot of people in St. Thomas have Tortolian backgrounds. So there may be some differences in how they opt to do it. But
So
it's the
then
taste
this is a
that
recipe
counts.
from St. Croix.
Yes, this is
All
the
right,
Crucian
so
recipe.
A Crucian recipe.
That's right.
So how many people can this big pot feed?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit.
Quite a bit. So how do you prepare it? You just basically take a scoop and pour it over the fungi. You want to go ahead and let us see how you actually dish it out?
Well, I put the fungi first in a bowl.
Okay, so you want to put some in a bowl and...
Well, I have to get the fungi from where it's at.
Okay, so you already have the fungi done boiled out.
Yes.
So what's the trick to boiling out fungi? Because a lot of people don't actually make fungi the same. I see today you don't have any okra in it because you said you don't want to overpower the okra flavor because it's already inside of the callaloo.
Yes. When you cook regular callaloo, you have okra in the callaloo itself. Lots of okra. So therefore, when you use the fungi, you don't put okra in it. That's how I grew up knowing. That's how I grew up knowing it.
Okay.
That you don't put no additional okra. It's already
No
in the
additional
callaloo.
okra, no additional vegetables, no additional seasons. Everything is just going to flavor itself.
Well, that's what the bush is for.
That's what the bush is for. So it's very true. And how beneficial is eating callaloo for your health? Do you know?
Well,
Because it got a lot of meat in it, so it'll make you question it's a lot of greens, but it's also a lot of meat. So it's like, is it healthy or is it borderline?
I'd say it's healthy.
It's healthy.
I don't think callaloo have done any harm to anyone thus far. What you monitor is the salt content of the callaloo. Because remember, the bush don't have no salt or nothing in them. The content of the salt meat that you put in there is what you monitor.
Okay.
So we have to go down to the bottom and come up to the top. Because a pot this deep.
Oh man, that just smells amazing. Look at that steam coming off of there. And that broth is thick. You could have seen when it was just dripping how thick it was. Oh yes.
See the red pepper?
Yeah, I see the red
There's
pepper
the red
right
pepper.
there. The pepper is essential, man. It's essential. So would you say that this is at any time of the year dish, or do you just really like it around the holiday season?
It's any time of the year.
Any time of the year. How often do you eat it?
Well, right now, I have not been cooking it very often because I don't have a bush. I don't have the bush. And for me, I don't like spinach callaloo per se. I like If I plan to eat Kallaloo, I want Kallaloo with real Kallaloo bush.
You want the traditional thing.
That's right.
Do you know about any other islands where they make Kallaloo?
Well, I know about Trinidad, but their Kallaloo is more like a vegetable. They add it to a dish. It's not a soup.
It's not a soup.
No. And in Antigua, they cook pepper pot, which I've had several times.
So what's the difference between pepper pot and Kallaloo?
Pepper pot is primarily made with spinach alone. I don't see that it has any other bush in it. It's very tasty. You can have different things in it. You can have dumpling. You can use fungi. But I have never tried to prepare it. I've always just had it from a friend of mine who does it very well. And that's their Kallaloo, but it's different to how we prepare ours. They also put salted meat in it too. Okay? So, but it's different from what we do.
It is. I've had Kallaloo on different islands. What I have noticed is that, you know how we were just talking about, you use about 5 different bushes here. With them, they only try to restrict to using the Kallaloo, or like you said, sometimes they add spinach. So in Grenada, I had it before. When I've had it, it was, how you said, just a side dish. It was with just a Kallaloo and the okra. And it was super, super tasty. It was also kind of like if they flash fried it. It was weird. I never even knew you could do that, but they said they flash fry it to kill any of the spice from it, because they said Kallaloo bush is actually dangerous just to eat raw. I don't know why it's dangerous, but they said it's supposed to be dangerous. I know how it's supposed to be beneficial to you. I know for women it has a lot of folate in it and fiber and vitamin K. So it's good for people who is diabetic as well. It helps them with insulin-like properties.
Well, I think I could give you a joke about that. Sometime when I worked for Head Start, we were at a training. And the trainer was telling us that all the bush that you use here in the Virgin Islands for Kallaloo, you know, they're poisonous. And it kind of scared us all together. We were like,
that's
what?
I'm talking about.
So,
other islands that they say it's poisonous.
But then, too, I sometimes wonder if it has a little sedative in there, because sometimes after you finish eating Kallaloo, a good solid bowl, you get sleepy. And you want to go to sleep.
I think
it relaxes
warms your
you.
soul.
Yes, it gotta be that.
Soothing. It has soothing properties in it, definitely.
Maybe one day we should test the bush them and see exactly what all the different, because it's like 5 or 6 different bush.
So have you had the Kallaloo prepared without stewing it down?
Without, what do you mean stewing it down?
I mean, like, have you had it like a salad?
No, I've never had.
Just raw.
The only bush in this Kallaloo today that I've had in a salad is the spinach, the fresh spinach leaf.
So, Miss Janice, why do you feel like this is the best way to make Kallaloo?
Well, Crucian Kallaloo. That's how I believe. Crucian Kallaloo. Everybody have their own way of doing it, and I have to respect that, because that's their culture. But in my culture, this is what I like. This is how I like Kallaloo to be made. It can be Kallaloo differently, prepared differently for every other place that we come from. And we're all West Indians, true, but we have different ways of preparing stuff. And that's basically because of our environment, where we live, and the differences that may be present.
So right now, since the hurricanes, it's a little scarce for us to find bush.
True.
So how do we keep this tradition and this culture alive?
Well, I would like to encourage all the farmers to find a way to plant Kallaloo bush and keep it as a staple here in the Virgin Islands, because when they asked me to prepare this dish, the first thing I told them is that if I don't have Kallaloo bush, I am not going to cook Kallaloo from scratch. I have to have the real McCoy to go with it.
So what kind of environment do you know that it grows in? Because St. Croix, despite it being a small island, you go east, it's dry, dry, dry. You go west, it's a little more of the wetlands. So what side of the island would you say would probably
I would
flourish
probably
on?
say probably in the middle, or someplace going west where there is kind of more moisture. But we do have a lot of good agricultural land. And you got to remember, Kallaloo is a wild bush.
It is a wild bush. I have some growing across the street from me right now.
That's what I mean.
I have some growing across the street from me right now. And I keep saying every day, I'm going to go and pick it, go and pick it, go and pick it. But it's a lot of work picking bush.
But have you ever noticed that it have a seed on it and it has a flower? See,
I can't say that I ever paid attention too much to notice
there is a
it.
little orangish yellowish flower on it, and it has like a little long seed in. It's very thin, so you could miss it. And I'll tell you one secret. When you see the leaves are big, the Kallaloo bush is young. When you see the leaves begin to get tiny, that's when it's old.
Okay, so does that make a difference in when you pick it?
Well, it's harder to pick when it gets old because the leaves shrink.
At that point, it doesn't have the same beneficial properties.
If you get enough, it'll have the same, but it's just more work in picking it. You know, you have the same because Kallaloo bush is Kallaloo bush. And Popololo and Bata Bata and Pulsi, they will be, and Whitey Mary, they will also be what they are. You know, that's the bush. That's how they are.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yes.
Time for me to actually taste all of this delicious food that you have prepared, especially the fungi. Fungi is my favorite thing.
Mine's too.
It warms my soul. Okay, so now it's time for the tasting part. Now, me particularly, I like seafood Kallaloo. I'm not a big fan of pork, but I am going to try this because it smells so amazing. And I would hate to make Miss Jeanette good cooking go to waste.
But I do prepare.
That is flavorful.
I do prepare seafood Kallaloo also. And believe me,
That is very
lots of
flavorful.
crab and shrimp and lobster and fish. It is just as delicious.
You use the same bluefish that you did for in this?
Yes.
What other kind of fish you did for
You
in
know,
that one?
you could use wenchman.
Winchman? What is a
wenchman
winchman?
and goldfish. Wenchman is a pink fish with big bulby eyes, and goldfish is a narrow pinkish fish with some little yellow running through it. But I notice these days when you go to the fisherman, you don't see them that often.
No,
But,
that's not something that I've never even heard of. Excuse me a moment. I've never even heard of a wenchfish before.
Wenchman.
Wenchman.
That's the name.
Wenchman.
Wenchman and goldfish. And the reason why they say goldfish, it has two little yellow bead hanging.
Yes, I've
And-
seen a goldfish
yes.
before. They're cute.
Yes. But bluefish is it.
So bluefish, a little conch, and some lobster, and you're good to go
That's right. For seafood,
for
yes.
the seafood.
Conch, lobster, shrimp.
But see, seafood has its own natural flavor, but it's not as salty as
No,
the ham and
you
the
would
pork
have
and the
to
beef.
add the salt for that.
So what seasons do you add into the seafood?
No, you
Kallaloo?
just add the salt. And I buy a seafood flavoring to put to it, to give it, to enhance it.
to enhance it more.
Yes. And it's delicious. And then sometimes what I do is that if I cook both of the Kallaloo, I'll take some of the seafood and put it into the regular Kallaloo.
Yes. So I'd hang out sometimes over there and over in the lagoon area, and I don't know, do you know Simic?
Of course.
Okay, well Simic he'll make a pot of Kallaloo usually on the weekends on Saturday, and he'll make the same way how you prepare it, but there's some people who don't eat the meat, and he'll have the seafood and he'll just douse the seafood in there.
Exactly.
Because it's right next to the water anyway, so they usually always have like fresh seafood, and I think the fresher the better. Like, that's the best way to have these traditional meals, is to have it very fresh and
That's right.
nice.
That's right. That's right. That's a Crucian tradition. Everything fresh, straight from the garden.
I also think it's important that we carry out these traditions of making this stuff, because it's a good way for us to pass on our culture to our next generations that's coming, as well as a good conversation piece. Like how I'm spending all this time with you, and I would have not known you before, except I did hear your name before for the food fair.
Yes. Oh, I was lucky. During Governor Young time, I was honored with having a food fair named after me in my honor. And that year, oh boy, it was wonderful. And you know something, I was preparing so much food that we were a little late. But everybody was standing waiting there.
So you know the food was good.
That's right. And they helped me bring in the pot, set up the table,
Tables,
do everything.
They were ready for
Everything.
that pot.
And every single thing went. everything was sold. Red pea soup, one lady tell me, "Ma, you put your foot in this red pea soup, Miss Hunt, and the money." So, it makes you feel real good, to see that you're trying to carry on your
To
tradition.
see people loving it and receiving it in a pleasant way, that must be a beautiful thing, huh?
It's like I said, I wouldn't say I'm a cook, I'd just say I love to cook.
You love to cook, so all your meals are prepared with love then.
Yes, from the heart.
That's a beautiful thing. Definitely should always have a little in the cooking. Okay, so thank you guys for watching the Crucian Cultural Cuisine segment with me, Magda Moolenaar, and Miss Janet Rouse. We hope you guys learned some stuff today, and remember, stay traditional when you're making these dishes, or don't make them at all.
That's right. And for me, it's wonderful to have, which generation are you?
I am the fourth generation of Tatay.
Just smiling at the time.
Just Moolenaar Tatay.
It's wonderful to have being interviewed by this young lady.
Thank you.